Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our session. I want to take this opportunity to welcome all of you for joining us in this IGF 2025 session. The session is called the ITU Call for Inputs on WSIS+20 Review. And my name is Cynthia Lisufi, and it is honestly an honor to be your moderator today. And this session is organized by the ITU and South Africa and invites all stakeholders. I really want to invite all stakeholders to share their available perspective on ITU's contribution for WSIS+20 review, which is actually informed by the work that the ITU is doing through the ITU Council Working Group on WSIS. And there is a specific resolution that is actually guiding this particular process, the ITU Council resolution, which has actually invited member states and stakeholders to share their views on the ITU's work on WSIS+20 review, including the ideas on reviewing WSIS action lines through the Council Working Group, WSIS and SDGs. And with this, I also want to recognize Ambassador from Albania. One of the co-facilitators is Ambassador Kenyan. Welcome and thank you for joining us. And and I see, I apologize, and I see the ambassador from Kenya. The two co-facilitators are actually joining us today. We are really honored for you to be joining us. So, as I've mentioned, I just want to highlight this particular session. Our aim here is to really to explore the important areas, including the remarkable strides and evolving challenges since the Geneva Plan of Action, the crucial elements of WSIS process with the transformative 2030 agenda, and the exciting trajectory of WSIS beyond 2025. And this session will also highlight the ITU's impactful work over the past 2 decades and underscore the paramount importance of inclusive, multi-stakeholder engagement in fostering comprehensive and forward-looking review of the WSIS process. And with this, really, I want to welcome all my panelists with me here, and I will then start by inviting Ms. Renata Santayo from the telecommunication regulator of Brazil, Anatel. Ms. Renata, can you please take the floor? Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Gitanjali, for being here, all the panelists and all the judges, of course. Well, the last years, I had the opportunity to be closer to the WSIS process, and with as a vice chair from the American regions and the ITU Council, and about the call of inputs and WSIS+20 review, invited all the stakeholders to give all the contributions and views, and what we could see through all the inputs we had, that ITU always played a very significant role in the WSIS process, and the review facilitated through also the Council Working Group from ITU. And I think it's important to talk about 3 different pillars that assess progress, address challenges, and identify future priorities. So when we look at the assess progress, we can see that we kind of, through the WSIS action lines, we built a lot of progressions, especially combining with SDG 17 that focused on the strengthening global partnerships for sustainable development. We can also talk about the most impactful WSIS action lines, like the whole of government, information and communication infrastructure, C3, access to information, capacity building, and so on, others. But the most important things is like look at the future with the actions line that continue being very valuable for the future, and that we together with the process with GDC, they can be complementary of, and the GDC can, I think, after the call of inputs, we could see that the WSIS architecture is very valuable for all the process, and we can add with also the element paper that we had last week. So I think we can see that all the documents together, all the inputs together can look at the future and can have help to the challenges that we still have with the fast technological changes, help to the digital divide, all the new challenges like cybersecurity, help with inclusivity. So it was, I think, the call for input was very valuable for the process, and to show that I2 play a very vital role in the process. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Renata, for sharing those incredible, valuable input from the Brazilian perspective on the I2's call for WSIS+20 review. Now, on the second panelist that I want to call is Mr. William Lee, an assistant director from Australia. Is William Lee in the room? Yes, yes. Hey, William. Sorry. Please take the floor.
Thank you very much, Cynthia, and it's a pleasure to be here, and let me acknowledge the hard work that ITU and South Africa have been putting in to prepare the ITU community for the WSIS+20 review process. Probably just, I guess, 4 points to acknowledge in terms of the contribution that ITU is making and is continuing to make to the WSIS process. I think one of the first things to call out is the work done by UNGUS and in particular ITU in relation to the GDC, WSIS and SDG matrix. I think as a government we have found that particularly helpful to understand where the linkages and commonalities lie between the various processes that are going on, and to orientate where WSIS+20 can take forward meaningful actions into the next 10 or 20 years of digital development and digital transformation. The second thing that I would acknowledge is the WSIS Forum. I think that is an important part of the cycle of conversation that happens between the IGF, the national and regional initiatives, intergovernmental consultation, and the WSIS Forum acts as a vital bridge between the multi-stakeholder community and governments. And I know we're meeting again in a couple of weeks on the WSIS Forum, and it's very impressive to see the number of governments and other stakeholders engaging in that process and serving as that bridge between the multi-stakeholder discussions happening here at IGF and the conversations happening in Geneva. The third point, I think, to pick up on the call for contributions and the call for inputs, we saw over 90 submissions to that ITU call for inputs, which were extremely valuable in understanding the perspectives of different parts of the ITU community, whether that's from the standards sector, the development sector, or the radio communications sector, all really, really useful inputs. And I think the inputs that were received, coupled with conversations such as on multilingualism in another council working group, really show what is possible, what governments are looking for, what stakeholders are looking for, and what WSIS+20 can deliver into the future. And then finally, simply to acknowledge the 15,000 projects that have happened through the WSIS stocktaking database have really shown in a very practical and tangible sense the impact that the WSIS framework and the WSIS action lines are having. And I think ITU has done an excellent job in collating that information, in championing the support for those projects, shining a light on areas that might not otherwise have seen the light of day, and helping all of us as a multi-stakeholder community contribute to the development of the WSIS objectives and the WSIS vision. So I think there is a bright future ahead. I know as a member of the ITU community, we are excited to see where the WSIS+20 process goes, and as a member of the IGF community, keen to continue to see ITU contributing alongside other stakeholders in the WSIS framework to deliver outcomes over the coming years. Thanks very much, Cynthia.
Thank you, William, for sharing with us those thoughtful contributions on what is it that the ITU is doing with regard to the implementation of WSIS outcomes and what is the future, and doing that, of course, responding to the ITU's call. I now want to give the floor to Ms. Mina from as a council vice chair of the ITU council working group on WSIS and SDG from Japan. I mean, from Korea. From Korea, I apologize, from Korea.
Thank you, Cynthia. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, Japan and Korea, we're best friends, so you can mix. And then I welcome both ambassadors here, and then you have really good, important job in your hands. We are looking forward to meeting you in the coming WSIS high-level event in UN. Well, as we mark 2 decades since the launch of the WSIS process, we are not only looking back, but we are looking ahead with urgency. So the WSIS+20 review is a crucial opportunity to reassess whether our digital transformation is truly aligned with the principle we agreed upon: inclusion, equity, and development. In many ways, and then the Asia-Pacific region reflected both the promise and then paradox of the digital process. We've seen great advancements. 5G now reaches like 65% over of our population, and internet usage exceeds like 82%, far above the regional average. And countries have made tangible strides in digital infrastructure, inclusion, and innovation with the support of ITU and then with this community. Yet, but deep inequality persists. 1/3 of the region remains offline, and many small island and then landlocked developing countries continue to face systematic barriers to meaningful connectivity. This mixed picture reminds us that the digital transformation must be measured not only in bandwidth, but in equity and then impact. That's why the WSIS+20 process must be supported by strong, inclusive platforms. And here, both the WSIS Forum and the Internet Governance Forum plays an indispensable role. These aren't just like annual meetings. They are essential mechanism for multi-stakeholder engagement and then regional voice and then global coordination. So their contributions must be fully reflected in the lead up to the UN high-level events in New York and this December. So this connection must not be overlooked. And then WSIS+20 gives us the opportunity to re-energize on our shaped goals, to integrate the action lines more deeply with the SDGs and GDCs, and then to tailor implementation to local needs, and to uphold the spirit of collaborative multi-stakeholder governance. So WSIS was not just a framework of the past, but it is a living process. And now is the time to renew it like boldly, fairly, and together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mina, for sharing with us I would say, the Asia Pacific's views on the ITU call for inputs on the WSIS+20 review. I now want to take this opportunity to welcome Ms. Lindemann from Germany to take us through their views on this. Thanks.
Yes, thank you very much for having me. Sorry, well, as previous speakers pointed out, we are very happy that we can contribute meaningful in the WSIS+20 process, and so therefore, of course, we appreciated also the ITU's process within. We think this year marks a key moment for internet governance and international digital policy with this review process and the follow-up to the GDC. Having that said, the WSIS+20 negotiation will require careful diplomacy to build a constructive and forward-looking agenda. Key priorities for us and the European Union include the extension of the Internet Governance Forum mandate and ensuring meaningful multi-stakeholder participation. One way to support this is by involving this IGF multi-stakeholder advisory group through the proposed sounding board, as it was suggested by the European Union. So we think this is a really great idea. And we are also very pleased that the co-facilitators, who are actually in the room as well, thank you so much for this, took up the idea and have launched the call for application for the informal multi-stakeholder sounding board. We believe the IGF mandate should not be reopened or renegotiated. From our perspective, the existing mandate is sufficiently broad. A top priority to secure a long-term and stable financial foundation for the IGF to ensure its full implementation of its mandate. So we do see value in strengthening the IGF secretariat. Maybe we were pondering about ideas and through the appointment of a director, a post that had been there in the past and hasn't been reappointed. We also encouraged improved public outreach and communication from the IGF and its secretariat. And in addition, we support aligning the follow-up to the GDC compact with the WSIS action lines. Finally, we advocate for the strengthening of the role of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights and Digital Matters. Thank you so much. This is from my side.
Thank you very much, and thank you for sharing with us Germany's perspective on this important call. Now I want to invite Mr. Aida, the ex-Vice Minister from Japan. He's currently a special advisor. Mr. Aida, please take the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and thank you very much for this opportunity. So, very similar to a German colleague, our priority is not only to maintain IGF, but also to strengthen this platform as the multi-stakeholder platform to discuss internet governance. And we don't also support renegotiating the mandate, and also we don't want to open the discussion on action line. We also support the strengthening the secretariat of IGF, and we have to think about the funding, but we would be very positive to contribute. We also understand there are some AI part, and we do not support duplication with existing instrument, but the output related to AI needs to be streamlined and also inclusive. So that is our position. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Aida, for sharing Japan's perspective on the WSIS+20 review. And I now want to invite Mr. Gitanjali Shah from the ITU. Please take the floor.
Thank you, Cynthia. We'd like to thank the COFAX for joining our session. Thank you, ambassadors. We, of course, as Secretariat at the ITU, work under the guidance of our membership and the chair, Cynthia, and our vice chairs, Mina, Renata, of course, those of you who could not be with us, Susanna from Sweden, Janet from Africa, and Ahmed from Iraq, who are currently serving as vice chairs at the Council Council Working Group. So the responses highlighted that in 20 years of implementation, the WSIS process has significantly advanced the global connectivity, reduced digital divide, and promoted inclusive digital transformation. ITU has been instrumental in implementing the WSIS process, providing leadership across many domains as the sole facilitator of ICT Infrastructure Action Line C2, capacity building C4, building confidence and use security in the use of ICT, cybersecurity C5, and C6, the enabling environment. Additionally, ITU has been a central coordinator for this UN framework, working with more than 50 UN entities nearly on a day-to-day basis based on our respective mandates. We just had a session before this where we had FAO, UNESCO, UNDP, and many other UN agencies working with us together in implementing the WSIS process. The comments and inputs also highlight with respect to the WSIS process and the Pact of the Future and its GDC to leverage existing mechanisms along with its key elements such as the WSIS action lines, UNGIS, WSIS stocktaking, WSIS forum, IGF, which provide a comprehensive framework for implementing the commitments outlined in GDC. The inputs, of course, also outline ways to maintain and strengthen multi-stakeholder platforms like the WSIS Forum and the IGF. The call for inputs, as decided in the ITU Council last week, Cynthia, perhaps you can also provide the way forward that was decided. The Secretary General will definitely input this through her WSIS+20 report to the UNGA overall review. And as ITU, the Secretary General also noted in her opening address that 2.6 billion people are still completely offline. Closing these digital divides and building digital governance together with urgency is very timely. It means that securing global digital infrastructure is secure and resilient from submarine cables to satellite networks, setting trustworthy technical standards, innovation in AI, especially, of course, innovation in emerging tech, especially AI, is sustainable and responsible. So ITU, of course, is working with all its membership and all stakeholders to make sure that connectivity is not just universal, but meaningful. It's safe, affordable, and empowering. Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Gitanjali, for taking us through the summary of the call for input. Yes, indeed, as you have highlighted, the ITU is currently holding its ITU Council. However, this issue was also discussed in the Council, and the decision of the Council was to actually submit this to the upcoming UNGA in December. And this will be submitted by the ITU Secretary General. But not only that, the Council also decided that through the chairperson of the high-level event, the upcoming high-level event, which is South Africa, would also include this in the summary report that the chair will be producing, and the intention of that report is also to submit to the upcoming high-level event. And with this, ladies and gentlemen, I now want to open the floor for comments.
UNDP raise the flag.
Oh, okay. UNDP, please take the floor.
There we go. I apologize for that. So just my thanks to ITU and South Africa for organizing this event, for giving UNDP the floor. We just wanted to reiterate that as a member of the United Nations Group on the Information Society that the UK had mentioned had mentioned that we, as one of the UN agencies, the United Nations Development Program, stand ready to support the co-facilitators, the member states, the stakeholder community in any way that we can to continue this very important multi-stakeholder dialogue. We work very closely in New York, and so this connection between Geneva, New York, other parts of the world will be particularly important, and that we really, as the UN system, stand ready to support in any way possible, and that we are looking forward to the outcomes of the WSIS+20 review. So just again, to reiterate our thanks to being part of this conversation and our readiness as the UN system to make sure that the very important multi-stakeholder conversations that start here, begun elsewhere, translate into impact, into delivery, and concrete contributions to improving the lives of communities and peoples that we serve. Thank you very much for giving me the floor.
Thank you, Yuping, UNDP. Of course, the ITU do work with all UN agencies, and we appreciate your input. Any person asking for the floor? I see. What? Cuba, asking for the floor.
Thank you, Madam Moderator and panelists. I represent the Ministry of Communications of the Republic of Cuba, and we have submitted a contribution for the WSIS+20 process to the CSTD, also to the ITU, and I think it will be submitted also to the co-facilitators. I just want to mention some key parts of this contribution. The first one is that we think that the outcome documents of both phases of WSIS remain fully valid and should be reaffirmed. The concepts, principles, and objectives that should govern the construction of the information society were meticulously drafted and negotiated over more than 2 years. As a result, the WSIS output documents have a depth, generality, and breadth that makes them remain fully relevant despite the elapsed time and the emergence of new technologies. So they do not need to be updated, reopened, or renegotiated. They should be reaffirmed as was done in the 2024 Summit of the Future. Another key aspect of the contribution is that we believe that no new mechanisms and processes should be created for the implementation and follow-up of the WSIS and the Global Digital Compact, because the increase in the amount of governance mechanisms and processes in the digital world make it difficult for many member states, particularly developing countries, to participate. This diminishes the inclusiveness of these mechanisms and processes, as many countries and regions of the world would not be adequately represented. The other key element, I'm just going fast, is that the existing processes and forums of the WSIS implementation and follow-up mechanism at the international level should continue. We then mentioned the Internet Governance Forum that has been mentioned here, and that the mandate of the existing is sufficient to keep as it's mandated as a policy dialogue, multi-stakeholder policy dialogue forum. Also, the importance of the Commissions on Science and Technology for Development, because it's a space open for intergovernmental discussions that is also necessary in this framework. Of course, this has been tasked with the follow-up and revision of the outcomes of WSIS, but it could be widened to some more, like recently it's open for data governance and some others, so it's another one. Of course, the WSIS forum should continue, but we emphasize that it should focus more in the follow-up of the action lines and the accountability of the facilitator moderators of those action lines. At the end, I will give a personal comment around that. And the final point, and of course the General Assembly is all this, every year goes to the General Assembly at the end of this process. And the other key point that this process needs to be improved and need to be increase the communication linkage between them to avoid duplication and emphasize synergies. those in a nutshell is the content of the contribution. Now I'm going to make a comment just to underline what we are mentioned about the WSIS forum, because we are now focusing here in the ITU. We believe, and that's also in the contribution, that the action lines should be a sort of a clearinghouse for all the activities regarding a topic, because it's cross-cutting around thematics. For instance, I'm going to put an example in which I have personal experience. There's one action line regarding cybersecurity. But on the other hand, there's some other process, even within the United Nations, like the Open-Ending Working Group in the First Commission. And sometimes there's no communication between those two processes, and that could reinforce each other and avoid duplication. The same could happen and happens with some other action lines. So I think that this was mentioned before, that one of the parts of improvement of all this process is to increase the complementarity by making formal linkages, maybe formal liaisons between all these processes in order to avoid duplication. And I will repeat, in the Open-Ended Working Group of cybersecurity in New York, there are many action-oriented recommendations that could fit very well within the WSIS action line in cybersecurity. Thank you.
Thank you, Cuba, for sharing Cuba's perspective on the WSIS+20 review. Is there anyone asking for the floor? Yes.
Thank you very much.
Please
My
introduce.
name is
Yes.
Luvokre. I am from the South African Internet Governance Forum, and I'm also a telecoms operator in South Africa. So we recently held our Internet Governance Forum in South Africa in April, and one of the questions that were asked were, so as the ITU calls for inputs on the WSIS+20 review, how do we ensure that this process genuinely reflects the voices and the lived realities of developing countries, especially marginalized communities who remain unconnected? So rather than being dominated by the narratives from the global north and large technology corporations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Luvo from South Africa, for highlighting South Africa's view. And, I think from one of the stakeholders of South Africa, and we thank you very much. And I'm sure the co-facilitators are listening, then they will then take this into consideration. Anyone asking for the floor? Yes, Nigeria, from Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Cynthia. My name is Abdul Karim. I am from University of Ilorin, Nigeria. I want to first of all commend you for those wonderful presentations and all the panelists for those wonderful presentations they made earlier. But I have a question which is regarding the next steps. I know that the document has been approved by the ITU Council, as you suggested, and I know that most of the documents by ITU are restricted documents. Would the output document be published so that the general public will be able to view this document before it's submitted to the Secretary General? Thank you very much.
Thank you. I will try and answer this, and Gitanjali can try and add. The documents, as we speak, they are currently published on the ITU website. However, there are those documents that the member states and stakeholders have requested that they shouldn't be published, but those which they have agreed that they can be published, they are currently on the ITU website. So anyone is free to go to the ITU website and access the contribution coming from different stakeholders. Thank you. Anyone asking for the floor? So I don't see anyone. Okay.
Chair, there are some online questions, and the producer is just going to send them to us.
Okay.
Maybe, Chair, if you permit, I can also respond to the South African participant's question. Thank you, sir. Of course, we must all never forget that WSIS was about bringing technology to the people. So it is about serving the underserved and to make sure that the process reaches the last mile. This is the reason why all our policy making processes in terms of WSIS are bottom up. For example, the agenda of the WSIS forum, the agenda of the IGF, the ITU call for inputs was also open to all stakeholders, and we received many from civil society. I do hope you also participated in it, but just to let you know that the ultimate goal of the WSIS process is to ensure that technology benefits the last mile and that we are bringing the opportunities of technology to everyone everywhere. Producers, do we have the questions, please? Could you read them out?
Sorry, we're just waiting for the producers to send us the questions or read them out. Or they can put them on the screen if it's possible. You're welcome. Is there anyone wanting to take the floor while we are waiting for the questions to be put on the screen? Okay. Yes, please take the floor.
Hi, Professor Lee McKnight, Syracuse University. So it's very impressive, all the progress that has been made over the years through the WSIS process. However, now we get to the however. However, over the last 3 years, the number of unconnected has remained static at 2.6 billion. It was 2.6 billion in 2022. It's 2.6 billion unconnected in 2025. That might suggest that the WSIS process has played out and has made the contributions that it can, that it's time for further reform and to go in a new direction to break beyond what the level that we've been able to make through the WSIS process. Thank you. As an observation.
Thank you for providing us with that observation. I'm not so sure if the ITU Secretariat want to say something on the observation.
Sure, Cynthia. As we heard today, of course, there are challenges that remain. It's a huge task, like Anneret from the civil society mentioned in the previous session, that it was very ambitious, connecting the entire world, bringing the benefits of technology to all over the world, making sure there are capacity building programs, making sure what UNESCO does in the sense of building a knowledge community, like converting information into knowledge. It's a huge task, and we as UN agencies are adhering to the WSIS framework to ensure that we are able to provide those in a manner that we are not duplicating each other's mandates, and that we are committed towards providing these benefits of technology to all. So we have been asked to be ambitious, to continue this momentum that stakeholders have built, and to ensure that we bring this energy of the stakeholders into the WSIS+20 overall review, which is going on right now. And this is the reason why IGF and WSIS Forum are so important, so that all these views converge and they are inputted into the UNGA overall review as well. So thank you so much, sir, for bringing that to our attention.
I see William wanting to take the floor. William, Australia.
Thanks very much, Cynthia. And just to build on your question, I think one of the things we have seen is that the problem is now less and less a coverage gap and more a usage gap. And that requires a very different set of interventions and ideas and opportunities to close that gap, whether it's a question of digital literacy, whether it's a question of access to the technology and affordability of that technology, whether it's a question of online safety, whether it's a question of ensuring that the online environment is compatible with the language and the cultural diversity of the people we are trying to connect online. It's a far more nuanced problem than simply putting up a mobile tower or connecting a community with a line, although those are really important interventions still. So I think WSIS+20 is the opportunity to get actions and ideas to close those gaps and get the excellent work of all of the UN agencies, governments and other stakeholders pointing into that direction to keep that number moving in the right direction. So that was the only thing I wanted to add to that excellent question. Thank you.
Then quickly, just to also mention, Cynthia, sorry, that the value we're looking at, the 2.6 billion, the numbers are reducing. It's because we're looking at the numbers in terms of the billions. So by the time we narrow it down to the numbers, it's not 2.6 billion because it's on the billions. Thank you.
Thank you for adding on William's comment. I now give the floor to the next speaker.
Thank you so much. My name is Kweku Entry from Ghana, IGF. There are two things I'd like to suggest. The first one, for most of us who come from multi-bilingual countries, most of the times when we are having our processes and activities, being able to translate to have meaningful connectivity and also understanding from our multicultural and multi-linguistic barriers becomes problems because we do not translate the information and even the skills material training into language in which our locality, and especially our grassroots, picking up from Professor Lee McKnight, being able to connect the next billion is going to be from the grassroots, it's not going to be from top down. So the suggestion I always make, especially across Africa, is that to be able to translate this and have it in material in which is understandable for the people, we have a lot of teachers who are language teachers. But most importantly, to bridge that divide, especially in terms of technology for our older folks, the older language retired teachers are a resource we can also tap into because they will be retired and they will have some time on their hands to be able to help us also bridge the age gap. The second point is this. We formed the International Association of Regulation last year in University of Pennsylvania. And one of the things that I find, especially from my regulatory background, is that very often, most of the constituencies that we want to bring together, regulators, those who are doing the research, and the private practitioners, most of the panels that we have sometimes do not bring together what I call the triad or the quadruple triad or whatever it is. So those who do the research in the active field, those who are applying it, those who are regulating, I know ITU and the rest are doing some stuff, but on the international front, especially for the upcoming WSIS, I know there was call to suggest panels. Unfortunately, I couldn't suggest any of these, but maybe if there's still an opportunity for us to be able to bring the regulators, those who are using the data, those acting in the field, and let's have that kind of conversation because you've done some great work, and I think these are some of the things that you can be able to do, and especially the grassroots. Bring some of the grassroots people as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for that valuable input and comments. I will then give the floor to the ITU to react to the comments.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for that very important question. You touched about interpretation. We also have been facing a lot of challenge with that because the more interpretation we provide, the more participation we get. For instance, we started the Mayors Roundtable at the WSIS Forum last year, and we realized that the chiefs and the mayors really require interpretation for the conversation to be valuable. So this challenge we are being able to now overcome with the advances in technology. We are being able to get many languages using the different advances in the technology for interpretation. So we will try those also at the AI for Good summit at the 7th to 11th of July, and some of it at the WSIS forum as well. But within this UN system, we also have processes that we have to follow with the interpretation teams, with the interpreters. So we will do our best, making sure we don't break any of the rules. But we are experimenting with this at the AI for Good with several languages and with remote interpretation teams. So please do use those and let us know how it works. For the regulators, we have around 40 plus regulators coming to the WSIS forum, and we will have a regulatory roundtable and several interactive discussions where you can interact with the regulators. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Gitanjali, for that. Is there any other question? I think, okay, there is last question because
Thank you.
I think our
This
time is
is
over
Mohammad
now.
Abdul
Yes.
Haq Onu from Bangladesh IGF. I have some observation. As we approach, how does the ITU plan to ensure that voice from developing countries and local IGF, as like Bangladesh, are meaningfully reflect in the review outcome, especially regarding digital inclusion, capacity building, and involving multi-stakeholder ecosystem? This is my question.
Thank you, Sir, for that question. So my plea is that those who have questions, including the question that you have raised, please be vocal at the upcoming WSIS high-level event forum, and some of these things we will then be able to capture them. And with this, I want to take this opportunity to thank all of you for the speakers, and also to thank the co-facilitators for joining us. And I'm sure you've heard what the stakeholders are saying. And thank you very much for the questions. And this was really an insightful session. Thank you very much. And is it possible to do a photo?